record also. Yeah, so the Tyumen case is case of 6 anarchists and anti-fascists. They were arrested already more than 1 year ago in the August of 2025 in 3 cities, Yekaterinburg and Ural, and Tyumen and Surgut of Siberia. And this is a bit broken. Yeah, so, and it's called Tyumen case because the first arrests were in Tyumen and the prisoners are currently held there. So this is the main investigation. And all of these people, they are accused of being so-called terrorists and they are facing terrorist charges, but really they are not even so well connected with each other. They live in quite a big distance from each other. Maybe some of them knew each other, but they are mostly just involved in some sort of alternative culture activities there. And here is just a map to show where it is geographically these things are happening. So there is Finland and Sweden, and this is Ural Mountains, go here. And Yekaterinburg is close to the mountains, and then Tyumen is here. And this was not even marked in the Google Maps. This is just a screenshot from Google Earth. Surgut is there. So there is maybe, I don't know, more than 500 kilometers between these cities. But people also are, of course, it's less people living there, so they are more connected, kind of travel bigger distances, but still it's quite, of course, different places and environments. It's not necessarily one of the same scene or something. So 2 people were arrested first. One of them is Dennis Aydin. And they were arrested 13th of August with Kirill Brik in the surroundings of Tyumen. And they are accused of having some explosives with them. And actually the original charge was they were planning to blow up some kind of electric station or something like this. But Dennis is a musician, he's playing in the hardcore Siberian Brigand band, and also there was some black metal band called Rasputin he was playing with, so he's a guitarist in the subcultural act scene. And when they were arrested, they were tortured very heavily for more than 24 hours, and also they were threatening to rape them. And he's facing charges of possession of explosion, participation to terrorist organization, preparing a terrorist attack, but also it's related is another case that he was attacked in the streets by some men, maybe some could be some right-wing people who don't like subcultures or just some general kind of rednecks which happened in these kind of places and had to defend themselves, and was accused of exceeding limits of self-defense. And this might be actually the reason why the investigation originally started, because he was arrested, and then the cops started to check him and started to think maybe this is some sort of extremist guy, and apparently he was being followed, and also the friends were being followed. And it's also typical in this kind of especially more provincial places in Russia that we can check back to the map. So this is sort of so-called subject of the federations. This areas, this is like Komi Republic, this is Khanty-Mansis, this is Tyumen and Yekaterinburg region. And Russia is theoretically a federation, and all of them have their own parliaments and their own laws, but actually they don't have so much of any real autonomy. But each of these areas, they have their own FSB and anti-extremist police and maybe some police against organized crime. But of course, if you think this kind of place in the middle of Siberia, where it's not even roads, of course there is not really any extremist or terrorist. And they have to have something to do, so they try to find someone to send to prison, because there is this long time, like Russian tradition called Krugovaya Poruka, so it's kind of you have to be answering of everything and always to report some results for your superiors. And there is lots of this kind of quantitative measuring also in the state structure. So if you're police, you have to arrest certain amount of people and send to prison some amount of people. So of course, anti-extremist police, they also each year have to put some amount of people to prison. It's a bit like in the Stalin's time that they just sent a list that each region got some quota of people that they had to shoot, but it's not so extreme. They are not shooting people, but they have to send people to prison to find some terrorists, because with the logic of the system, there is always some terrorists somewhere. Then you just have to find them. So this is what the authorities are doing. Yeah, and then there is another guy, Kirill Brik, was arrested with Denis, and unfortunately now Kirill was broken in the investigation. We don't know so much. He was also telling lots of different kind of tortures with beatings and electricity, but his will was eventually broken. And in the last December, he stopped writing back to letters. He was still supported by the local supporting group, but now he's basically admitting everything that is charged against him, and also giving testimony against the others. But now there is a support group, mostly based on Tyumen, but also around the Russia. They are still supporting him because they have a bit like humanitarian position. But for example, Anarchist Black Cross, they will not anymore support Kirill. And the money from this event, it will be spent for this Tyumen case, but this support and sent to the support group, but support group is not providing Kirill Brik any financial support because he's now having like a state lawyer, which is basically from the secret services, and just saying him what he has to say. So he doesn't need a lawyer service, he just has another kind of strategy. But yeah, this kind of stuff is also morally difficult because, of course, everyone has some limit that breaks from the torture, and no one, or almost everyone, like people who are like professional torturers, I sometimes say that says like 99% of the people eventually talk at some point. So it's also a question. But also, if you cooperate if you have a support group, it's still possible in Russia to stop the torture. And also, it might be kind of, so it's of course always a bit difficult case. But also currently there is no torture going on against the other prisoners. So it might still be like not necessary for Kirill to cooperate to avoid torture. But yeah, it's always a complicated thing. And also what really happened, it's a bit complicated thing also because of course now it's a war in Russia. Lots of people do some sabotage actions, and I don't think it's also so much wrong in this kind of situation of war to make some sabotage because it's also a non-violent resistance. But currently this is the position of others, except Brecht, that they are not any anti-war militant activists and they didn't ban any sabotage. So they are denying everything, it's their position, and I think we have to respect whatever strategy and approach people do. And of course, it's still, I wouldn't say it's like super likely that people with so big distance from each other have some very organized underground organization, but who knows? Who knows? But I don't think it really matters in the end. Like, even if these people were planning some action or not planning, I think it's still worth of support, and whatever strategy people are choosing for their defense, it's their choice. Then it's Yuri, is one of prisoner from Yekaterinburg. He was already arrested in the next day, so obviously all of these people were followed, and there was already a plan before the first arrest to arrest all of them. And he's a freelance designer and also is a Thai boxer, not like professional, but it's his main interest. Also, he was being tortured with electricity. The family was being threatened. So his strategy of the Secret Service not only threat you, but also they are threatening that they will torture your family members or kidnap them. And also when they were torturing him, he had all to shout that I love Putin. And he's also accused the same charges with Dennis. Between 5 and 10 years of prison he may face, but Dennis, because there is also this exceeding self-defense, Dennis has a bit more bigger maximum sentence. Then the next is Daniel Chertikov, also from Yekaterinburg. He's very known veterinarian in his city, even when he's still quite young, and also a researcher, so not only like practicing veterinary surgeon, but also doing research and joining some scientific conferences. But he is also active in the alternative culture. He's in the Riot Folk band playing called Rocky Balboa. He also is facing the charges on preparing terrorist attack, and these charges might result him to be from 5 to 10 years in prison. Then Surgut prisoners. Nikita Olenik, actually the authorities, they want to charge him of being the leader of the group, and this is why he is in danger of being much more higher sentence. He's an anarchist activist. He organized the Libertarian Library, kind of a social space in Surgut, and was also a singer in the group called Opravdana Agressia, so it's called Justified Aggression. But this group, I think, already was disbanded sometime before. It's not existing during time of the arrest. But yeah, he was also tortured with electricity, and he may even now get life sentence, because after start of this special operation, always in Russia, every 5 or 10 years, they increased sentences of so-called terrorist crimes. So now, even without basically doing nothing yourself, you can be just thrown to life in prison in Russia. And in Russia, no one who has life sentence basically it's possible to apply for a release after 25 years, but no one in Russia has ever been released from a life sentence. So it's pretty likely that if the sentence is not overturned and you get the life sentence, it's pretty likely that you never get out from prison. And then is Roman Parklin, also from Surgut. He was with Nikita Olenik, establishing the Libertarian Library there. Was also tortured with electricity and threatened with rape, and he was tortured so much that he is actually now in neurological, called the neurological dispenser, so it's kind of type of prison hospital. But he had to struggle a long time to get this medical help, and he may also face, with his charges, prison sentence between 5 and 15 years. So yeah, this is all of the prisoners. And then it's a question, like, of course, this is all political cases. If there is FSB is organizing it, it's a question why we are even trying to support these people, because, of course, it's not really common in Russia that it's very seldom in Russia that court actually gives releases people. I think it's more than 99% that cases that actually end up in court, that people get sentenced. And also in political cases, it's especially difficult. The lawyers can take lots of money, but they don't necessarily make much difference. But the point of financing lawyers to political prisoners is that it's basically before the trial. It's often the only way to contact the prisoner. So if the prisoner doesn't have a lawyer, it's completely cut from communication with the external world. Might be sometimes kept with isolation, like Kirill Brik, who is now cooperating, was kept in isolation for many months. And also if there is some health problem, if there is torture, the lawyer is basically only way to maintain some contact with prisoner. So this is point of having a prisoner, and also there is a general solidarity, and of course kind of anti-war movement, an anti-fascist movement. All the movements, they have to first of all develop some solidarity with their own members, because of course movement which doesn't have any solidarity, they cannot change the world in general. And also in Russia, many kind of activities are being repressed, but prisoner support is repressed less than other kinds of activity. So even if Russia, for example, it's pretty risky even to talk that there is a war going on or organize some street demonstration, but it's still often possible in Russia to make this kind of event, for example, event of writing to political prisoners. They are in many cities happening more or less even openly. So prisoner support is a good way to kind of struggle against the regime in Russia, but without taking such a big risks. So this is why it's kind of, what is the point? Like, of course, kind of, it's easy to understand that this kind of people, like political prisoners, should be supported, but it's also part of general anti-war and anti-regime struggle. And yeah, a bit of Anarchist Black Cross of Moscow, which is supporting kind of part of this Tyumen campaign. There is a separate group, but also part of the fundraising goes through the Anarchist Black Cross. It's an old group, exists 20 years, but it's very small and usually has focused mostly supporting anarchists and anti-authoritarians, because these kind of cases have been more or less all the time during the last 20 years, but recently also supporting when the war started, the group started to support anti-war prisoners, but now there is so many anti-war prisoners and some anarchist and anti-fascist anti-war prisoners, that probably the focus will be more on the anarchist and anti-war prisoners only, because it doesn't have so much resources. Right now it's possible to donate with the cryptocurrencies and PayPal, and then Autonom or /ABC is the, you can read the news. There are lots of other initiatives. I think not all of them even are visible in the online version of the presentation. There is a new Facebook page, Poliittiset vangit Venäjällä. It's also organized by people from the democratic community in Finland. You can follow it. It's updates of all the prisoners in Finnish, and also the help, if you can translate from English or Russian to Finnish, you can help this project. Tyumen case doesn't have a page or a Facebook, but they have a Telegram channel. Mostly is published news in Russian only, but it's possible to translate. I think there is some plugins in Telegram that you can just click and then you'll see what is there in English. There is a fundraising, which the campaign tried to get started already this week, but maybe it will start next week. That then it's easy to donate just with any kind of bank card, also from Finland. Right now it's more cryptocurrencies and PayPal and stuff. Then is Solidarity Zone is an initiative supporting anti-war prisoners. They are providing lawyers for maybe 15 anti-war saboteurs, like people who do direct actions, like attacking military enlistment office or maybe railroads. They are providing lawyers now for maybe 15 of these kind of people, and also following maybe 20 or 30 other cases. But even these kind of cases, there are now so many that it's difficult to follow them. Main group is following the political repressions is Memorial, and they have the most longest list. It's the traditional human rights organization. It's the concentrated on. Originally, the purpose was more about maintaining memory of the Stalinist repression, but they also started to campaign for the current political prisoners, and this is why actually many of this organization of Memorial, they got banned and declared extremist in Russia. But not all of them, because actually Memorial is not one organization, but it's many organizations. But they have also a website and Telegram channel. They are choosing to support prisoner in the situation when they think that they can make some change with the court process. So they are not actively supporting all the prisoners, but it's a bit they choose from case to case, but they have news about many prisoners. Ovede Info is actually a group established by Memorial. It was originally concentrating on support people, like kind of legal support in the protests, street protests, but now when street protests has become very difficult or almost impossible. They concentrate also are maintaining information about anti-war prisoners. Then Tosusnik is a small project which helps you to write to prisoners. Now, because you cannot really send letters from Finland, I think we will probably have a couple of laptops here that you can just straight type letters with this through this Tosusnik website. But if we have many people, we can also take pictures of the letters and send them by email to Russia to people who will print them and send to prisons. And Usnik Online, it's another small network which is organizing this kind of prison support events. Then Russian Reader it's a blog which has just news from Russia in English, but it has also covers political repressions. And Irkutsk Anarchist Black Cross, they are supporting lots of these local Siberian cases of repressions against anti-militarist prisoners. Yeah, I think that was all. It was not point to be a long presentation, but can have some questions or comment. I also check if someone is commenting in the stream. Apparently no. So you can ask if there is some comment or question. I can answer. If not, we can just write some letters to prisoners.
I was wondering what is like good principle, or like what is good to write in letter. Maybe there's some things that are forbidden to write, or is there any kind of red lines?
Yeah, this is a good point. Actually, a friend sent me, there is apparently a small leaflet about what to write to political prisoners. I can just show this afterwards. But of course, in general, you can write about whatever stuff that is not like super, how to say, controversial in Russia. Like, no need maybe to discuss issues like some attacks against the military establishment or even anti-war movements and stuff, but it's possible to discuss, for example, Finnish politics or just some general things. But yeah, it's not necessary. Of course, might be difficult to write to some complete stranger person, but you can just write a bit notes about yourself. We have also, and one point is also the return address, because if they want to return, there might be, maybe some people don't want to use their full name, but you can use maybe some nickname. And also it might be, of course, that it should be name that is kind of, how to say, credible, that it's like a real name. But especially if we send stuff in Rosusnik from here, I think, I have to check how the replying there works. Maybe there is maybe you put your return email because it's like online form. Maybe the reply comes with the email. And if we take pictures and scan the letters, then you can use some name, which is your real name or not, but it's like sounds like a real name. And then I get we sent by mail to the Moscow Anarchist Black Cross, and then if there is a reply, they will just send it to the same email address where you sent the letter from.